Chalo karne. Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to take you through three important physical terms which plays major role in our daily life. So we should have the knowledge of these three terms so that we can succeed in some of our daily works. So if you don't have knowledge of these terms, you may fail to do your some works in your daily life. So those three important terms we have. The first one we are going to discuss in this short class is thrust, and the second we have pressure, and the third one we have biotic force. Okay. These three physical terms we are going to discuss now. So thrust is nothing but a perpendicular force on a surface. Perpendicular force acting on a surface, which means, so you can take any surface. Let us say this is my surface. Okay. So any force which is acting perpendicular to this surface, we call it as a thrust. Maybe let us say this force. So this force looks like which is acting perpendicular to the surface. Means perpendicular means the angle between the force and the surface is 90 degree. Then we call it as a perpendicular force. So this perpendicular force we consider it as a thrust. Okay, suppose let us say I have one more surface like this. So if there is any force which is acting in this angle, so are we going to call it as a thrust? No. This force is not called as a thrust. Why this force is not called as a thrust? Because it is not acting perpendicular to the surface. This is one case. The surface, it is not compulsory that we should have always surface like this. We may have surface like this. The force which is acting perpendicular, let's say this force, looks perpendicular to each other. This force I call it as a thrust. Why? Because this is a perpendicular force acting on this surface. Is that it? This surface can be like this also. It can be arc. Here also, you know this arc is made up of a small tiny lines. So for this, let us say there is a force acting on this point like this. So if you want to find out whether this is a thrust or not, what we have to do in arc surface, if you have a surface like arc, so first what you have to do, just draw one tangent across that line. So through that tangent you write down, you draw a normal. If the force is acting along the normal, then you can consider that force as a thrust. Okay. So if you have any circular surface, for that you need to find normal. If force is acting along the normal, then you can call that force as a thrust. So ultimately thrust is a kind of force. Thrust is a kind of perpendicular force acting on the surface. I hope it is clear for you guys. Next I will go to the pressure. Pressure is nothing but it is very simple. So pressure is nothing but thrust per unit area. Thrust per unit area. See, here I am writing, means I am applying some perpendicular force on this wall on this much of area. So let us say I am standing on this dash means I am applying some downward force. I am applying some downward force perpendicular to this dash, and the area of contact is like this. So plus, let us say I will take one pin here. So which is I am trying to drive this pin into the surface. and trying to drive this pin into this surface. Here, this surface we have now, this surface we call it as a area of contact. Area of contact which we are going to use over here. So our pressure depends upon the area of contact like this. Our pressure doesn't depend upon this area. The area which is coming in contact with the two objects. The area of contact. And here, through this object, using my thumb, if I apply force, perpendicular forces on the surface, in this case my pressure will be equal to the downward force which is acting perpendicular to this surface. This surface, let us say I am applying 100 Newton. So my pressure will be 100 Newton upon this area of contact. So this is what. So ultimately we will say here our pressure is directly proportional to the thrust. If thrust increases, pressure increases. And our pressure is inversely proportional to the area of contact. We cannot say it is area of the surface, it is area of contact. If area increases, your pressure decreases. So we will discuss about pressure in a more detailed manner when we start discussing about the real-time application. How this pressure plays an important role in our daily life. So next we have buoyant force. Buoyant force. You know already fluids you have studied. So you have studied liquids, gases, okay, many things in your first chapter, matters in class 1. So fluids, this liquids and gases both comes under the fluids. Fluids are those matters which have got fluidity property. They can flow. So if you talk about water, it flows in the layer by layer. Fluids, you know that fluids applies pressure because all the matters are made up of particles and each particle has space between them and they will be moving continuously. Okay, let me take a glass of water here. So this is water is a fluid, so which is made up of particles, and the particles of water are moving very fast, and the particles will move in a random manner. As they keep on moving random, lot of collision will take place between the particles. Some particles may keep on hitting the container. See, this particle is hitting here, this particle is hitting on this container here, many particles may hit here. So what is this? This is the force. The particles are applying pressure, force on the container, on the walls of the container. And some particles may hit in upward force, in upward direction like this. Some particles of water can apply force in upward direction. So these upward directions which are applied by the particles of the fluids, the upward force applied by the particles of the fluids, we call them as a buoyant forces. And the buoyant forces are the one which plays a major role in floating principle. Whatever the things which are floating on the surface of water or something which is floating on the surface of any liquid, so there is an application of buoyant force. Because of the application of buoyant force, that is upward force applied by the liquid, the things are floating on some things. And again, many things are there. So many things we need to discuss. So I hope this was enough for the day. So remaining things we will see in the next class. Thank you for the day. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you.